Thirsty for action? Let's crack open the Sunday Six-Pack.
All right, we came so close to the sweep. We both hit our totals, swept the sides. You went 2-1. The only thing was that the backup quarterback DTR having to start for Deshaun, which I heard Deshaun didn't even I heard he said he was gonna play and kind of put the team in a bad position. And at the last minute, he was like, "Nah, I can't go." So,
that's what made it worse. Yeah. Is DTR. Look, you never know what you're gonna get, but he's a rookie, and if you're gonna have to start a rookie again against a complex defense that shows you a lot of stuff pre-snap, you want to be have the week to prepare, right? You find this out on a Friday afternoon. It's like, oh, hey, go run with the ones. You got 1 or 2 days. That's not it's not ideal. Anytime you're starting quarterbacks out and you got to go to a rookie, but when you're assuming that your quarterback's going to play all week and then you make that determination on a Friday, you saw the results.
Yeah, it was bad. I like DTR. A lot of the preseason studs had rough
they're all
at it last year.
They're all bad. If you look at all the best preseason quarterbacks, Pickett, the list goes on and on. They're all playing really bad. I like the potential of DTR too, but it's probably going to take him some time, and that's probably one of the worst situations I've ever seen a rookie quarterback thrown into in my life.
Yeah, it was ugly. I mean, that Elijah Moore, what was it, a 20-yard loss? I mean, that just it was just a bad offensive day for Cleveland. But
yeah, they had a tip pick that basically led to 7 early, and then basically at that point, you can't ugly up the game and try to win it 10-7, and you're dropping DTR back, and the Ravens just took away the run, and it was lights out. But 5-1, 2-0 totals, 2-0 teasers. It was a good weekend. Let's have another one.
Yeah, and the Bears, you got the Rams money line, so the Bears blew it. We could have hit the parlay.
What were they up?
Too.
21?
28-7. Ridiculous. Just ridiculous.
Unreal.
And they had a chance to kick the field goal. You just knew Denver wasn't going to drive down the field for a what was it, 5th time in a row. You know what I mean? Just kick the field goal, bro. But I'm glad that went well because, a little behind the scenes, I would say I was probably in top 3 shambles that I've ever been in leading up to last pod. I changed all my picks, changed the order of my picks, how to buy out of the Raiders live on air or right before. It was ugly. So hopefully we can keep it going. My first pick of the week 5 Sunday 6-pack. This one's easy for me. Going with the Houston Texans plus 1.5 at the Atlanta Falcons. I could give you a lot of numbers, and I will, but I'm just gonna start by saying, just keep buying CJ Stroud until he's favored, really. Because if you're getting points with Stroud right now, he's been one of the better quarterbacks in the league, not just for rookies, but period. And he's impressively been able to overcome every single offensive lineman being out, pretty much. Last 2 weeks, 0 sacks, despite the O-line going through the most injuries. And he's facing Desmond Ridder, who the more he plays, the worse he looks. And, I think defenses are just starting to figure him out. And, you and I were both kind of disappointed because we thought the Falcons were going to be able to kind of hide Ridder better than this, have him just kind of distribute the ball. They have all these movable chess pieces, but at the end of the day, you have to throw the ball sometimes. And it's just not happening for the Falcons. Ridder leads the NFL in turnover-worthy plays. So, that is I think it could get worse, and I know the Falcons scored single digits the last 2 weeks, but I still think it could get worse. So I want to fade the Falcons until, Heineke gets in there. He'll probably get in there pretty soon, I would think, although I know it's a complicated offense, but really CJ Stroud, just, the Texans aren't world beaters by any stretch, but they have a solid receiving core. They've been able to mitigate their line. Slowick has been calling excellent games and schemes, and their defense has been solid, especially against the pass. And I know Atlanta is a run-heavy team, and that has been Houston's weakness, so that is a concern. But it's kind of like last week against Pittsburgh when it's all right, obviously there's going to be some, the Texans aren't going to have an edge in every facet. Like we knew TJ Watt was going to affect the game, and he did. He forced like a fourth down, like turnover on downs. This game, yeah, I'm sure the Falcons will be able to run some on the Texans, but at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, and these teams have to make plays to, get the ball in the end zone, I think it's going to be Stroud. I don't think it's going to be Ritter, and I think Ritter is much more likely to turn the ball over. So you look at the Texans 13th in points per drive at 2.1, Falcons 25th at 1.4. I still think Houston is due for some red zone regression. They're 31st in touchdown conversion rate in the red zone, where Atlanta is 5th on defense. I think both of those are going to regress to the mean, but the quarterback matchup is just absurd. Like Stroud is 3rd in yards per attempt at 8.0. Ritter's 26th. Stroud is 3rd in adjusted net yards in attempt at 7.7. Ritter is 29th at 4.1. EPA, Stroud is 13th at 0.102, and Ritter has been a negative when, so he's losing the Falcons points every time he drops back. So for double the points, Ritter is a minus 0.2, whereas Stroud is plus 0.1. So Ritter is losing double the points Stroud is gaining every time he drops back. And he has triple the turnover-worthy play rate that Stroud does. And Houston's been getting better. Like since week 2, they're 7th in EPA per play. First 2 weeks, 11 sacks. Since 63 dropbacks, 0 sacks, 9.8 yards in attempt for Stroud, 4 touchdowns, no picks, and 3 scrambles for 26 yards. So he's dropped back 63 times, and he's averaging at 9.7 yards, whether he scrambles, throws it, whatever, with no negative plays. I just think the market is too low on him. I have the Texans rated above the Falcons now, so I have this as a pick 'em. But I guess people, I know people like to bet on the team that's been down. The Falcons have been terrible the last 2 weeks. Usually I would be on them as a bounce back, but I just think Stroud is way underrated. And this coaching staff in general, I think D'Amico, pretty solid coach, getting his guys. I've seen improvement every week from this Houston team on both sides of the ball. So, whereas I think Atlanta is just running out. Like, they had one good game, really, that Green Bay game, 446 yards. Every other game, they failed to even hit 300 total yards of offense. Whereas Houston, they're outgaining opponents by 68 yards per game. 57 yards per game, excuse me. So I'm fading Atlanta until we get some Heineke and continuing to back Stroud.
I actually completely disagree with this one. The only picks I disagree with you with this year are when you've in Falcons games. I've been right on all 4 Falcons games. I think because they're basically like a service academy, and that's my specialty in college. So look, number one, the Texans and a lot of the Strouds look great. I love Slowick. I mean, look, if you just look at what Nico Collins is doing, 9 yards after catch, he's averaging. That's only other players in the NFL that average over 8: Waddle and Debo. That's the Shanahan tree. That's that offense that he's trying to implement. It's ahead of the curve, especially when you consider the offensive line injuries. And Stroud is good. I agree. It's also some good things like on the defense. I love Patriots safety, but Anderson, Grenard, they're getting really good pressure off of the edge. But here's the handicap when it comes to the Falcons. One, they are a service guy. They just want to run the ball, and they want to run it the entire game. When they do that, then their terrible quarterback doesn't have to throw it. Last week, the reason I like the Jags is because you can't run on the Jags. But you can run on Houston. Houston's run D has been pretty poor. They're bottom 10 EPA per rush allowed, bottom half of the league in success rate allowed. So if Atlanta can run the ball, they don't have to rely on Ritter. They can play with a lead, and then they can continue to run the ball. If they get behind, then you're asking Ritter to do things. He's going to throw picks like he did last week because Jacksonville got ahead. So I think that there's just a little bit of an overreaction to Houston. Stroud looks great. I like the staff too, but they beat the shit out of the Steelers in a classic spot where Tomlin's team lays an egg. Like we've seen that a trillion times to go on a road, play a team with not a winning record after a win before the Ravens game, and they just laid an egg. So in the week before that, a little misleading score. They were outgained by Jacksonville in a 20-point win. So this is probably the peak of the market, in my opinion, the Texans. And it's a good the Falcons are they're coming back from London, so we'll see what the travel does. We have a small sample size of scenarios of teams playing the week after, but I think this is a good buy low, sell high spot on Atlanta. But where I won't argue with you is that you have the better quarterback, and there still could be just there could still be value in the market on Stroud. I mean, Stroud could just be, the market. It's still rookie quarterback, right? So you're only adjusting Houston so much each week, and he could just be so good this quick that almost everyone is still way undervaluing this Texans team. I'm just not quite there yet. You're a little more aggressive with it, so I don't hate it. But one thing I will say to you though is that you mentioned Heineke. Yeah, I know that they gave the vote of confidence to Ritter, but I mean, if Ritter throws an early bad pick, I could see the change being made like in this game early.
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, this is one of my specialties is like, modeling players and stuff, and like, I think you exactly hit it on the head. The market is only going to go up so much by CJ Stroud, and they don't, like, not everyone knows exactly how much of a sample size for what stats. So like everything in my model says Stroud is like, you factor in all the regression you want, and this Texan offense is better than like 2/3 of the league, really, just because of Stroud. Like, it's if you can mitigate pressure, right? If you can mitigate pressure, and Stroud has been one of the most efficient quarterbacks when getting the ball out in under 2.5 seconds. He's 3rd in yards per attempt, 5th in quarterback rating. He's also been great from a clean pocket. He's been great, like, pretty much everywhere. Atlanta's going to be able to run, but like, at the end of the day, like, passing beats running, and like Houston's defense is 7th in DVO against the pass. So yeah, they're bad against the run, but like at some point Ritter's going to have to throw the ball. I just think Houston. I just think the market is way too low on Houston because of their offense. Like, I just, we've seen this. Like, the sharps are on the Steelers last week. Actually, like, that was a big sharp. I don't know why, and now the sharps are on the the Falcons. I don't get it. I just think people aren't factoring in the first 4 weeks and what we've seen, and also just knock it down. And I've been higher on the Falcons, All
right, I got to cut you off because we can't spend any more time on Desmond Ritter. So I got to move on.
We already talked Justin Fields and Sam Howell. Now,
we got to get to some real quarterbacks like Mitch, Bortles, Trubisky. So for my first pick of the Week 5 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think you can find a 4 out there, but it doesn't matter for the contest. So, look, this was a no-brainer for me. I do have a reputation to I have a reputation to hold out.
You sure do.
To hold out with so I can't go 1 and 2 fading the Ravens. So I faded them against the Colts, which worked out. Faded them against last week, but there's nothing I can do with the quarterback situation. This is just a no-brainer. I mean, first of all, it's good buy low, sell high spot. Ravens off big win over the Browns, but again, it's another backup quarterback. They've done nothing this year except play backup and one-legged quarterbacks in Joe Burrow. So I think that their defensive metrics are a tad overvalued. They're still dealing with some injuries, even though you got some guys coming back, but you got to mesh everyone back together. I don't even know if Humphrey's even going to be back this week. The pass rush still isn't there. So like, this team is just at the peak of its value, even though they've dealt with injuries because they played just backup quarterbacks. And then you got Stroud in his first start, but that was a rookie first start on the road with an offensive line in a brand new offensive scheme that was basically put together that week. So the Ravens have had everything break their way so far outside of those injuries. But this just boils down to what we've talked about for 6 years. This is a classic Tomlin spot. He will have his team up, rah-rah spot off an embarrassing loss at home against a winning team. They will just show up here. Low total, too, and you're catching over a field goal in a divisional game. Speaking of catching over a field goal, these teams have played 30 times in the regular season since John Harbaugh arrived in Baltimore. 17 of the 30 have been decided by 3 points or less. And the craziest stat of all is when the spread is 3 or more in this matchup since 2008, the underdog is 17-1-3 against the spread. 17-1-3 against spread. And we're not talking like spreads that are like 12, 15, 20. These are usually pretty evenly matched teams. These games come down You go back in the score issue, you'd be shocked how many games end 16-14 and 16-13. So, yeah, it's just 17-1-3 against the spread. Also, Tomlin is an underdog. We know 53-28-3 against the spread, over 65% against the spread. Most profitable of any coach in NFL history. He's also 33-15-1 against the spread, 69%. Very nice. Against teams with a winning record, most profitable in that spot by a mile. And then we talked Lamar Jackson, who's like the new Mahomes with the against the spread numbers, right? He's 15-1 against the spread, 94% as an underdog or favorite of less than 3 points. When favored by 3 or more, 20-29 against the spread, 40%. So talking 94 versus 40%. This is just classic divisional battle. Steelers bounce back here. You'll get a good effort. And by the way, I didn't even mention the fact that we're going to get Mitch Bortles Trubisky. I think it's an upgrade. It's not much. It's pretty even, but I have a tiny slight upgrade because as I've talked about all year, I'm way lower than the market on Kenny Pickett. I'm not a Kenny Pickett guy. Now, granted, he's in a Matt Canada system. He's not getting much help with the offensive line and, injuries at tight end and wide receiver. But look, Trubisky, aka Bortles, he threw for 340 against this Ravens defense last year. Just had 3 picks, which did him in. But I actually like his pocket presence a bit more. He can move around. And so I don't think there's any – I think the market has reacted to Pickett a little bit, and I don't think they should. I think this is even at worst, and I think actually a slight upgrade. Pickett just looks awful back there. He has no confidence. He's bailing so quick. So, yeah, I like the Steelers. Classic spot. If I had to guess, this ends 16-13 somebody.
I guess you don't want me to tell you that apparently Pickett is practicing with a bulky brace and is not yet ruled out. So
yeah, he's not ruled out yet. So regardless, it doesn't make any difference. I think it's going to be Trubisky. For this bet, it doesn't matter who starts a quarterback. I'm talking fractions of a point is what I have as an upgrade. But I actually would feel more comfortable with Trubisky, aka Bortles, back there, especially if Pickett is banged up and can't move around. So yeah, Pickett's. It's good that you clarify that. Pickett could still play, but I do think it's going to be Trubisky.
Yeah, I mean they might as well. I mean Pickett's been awful anyway. It's just a good time to kind of eject. Yeah. I got some more thoughts on this game, so I'll table that. I'll go with pick number 2, the third overall of the Week 5 Sunday 6-pack. I'll go with the Titans -1 at the Colts. This is just, coming into the year, I had the Titans. I was higher on the Titans than the market, lower on the Colts, and I think this is a good spot to buy the Titans. With the Colts and Anthony Richardson, he's getting the rushing touchdowns, he's scoring fantasy points, but I think this Colts team is still kind of playing above their heads. Richardson's 33rd out of 36 quarterbacks in adjusted completion percentage. And you got to be accurate to, that is the Titans' weakness on defense, I think, is against the pass. Against the run, they're
deep downfield. You got to throw downfield against Tennessee.
Right. And Richardson really hasn't been doing it until last game. He started to a little, but you kind of saw why he wasn't, because he went 11 of 25. And the offense is just, it's shaky. Even if Jonathan Taylor comes back again, Tennessee is number 2 in run defense, DVOA. That's always been Tennessee's strong point. Jeffrey Simmons up in the middle. And then, Indianapolis, they were playing, don't get me wrong, they were playing well. I definitely upgraded them based on, relative to how I rated them coming into the year. But now they're starting to get injuries, one of their starting corners, Dallas Flowers, and then Kwity Paye is also hurt, and one of their best pass rushers. And looks like Petit Frere got reinstated because they shortened those gambling suspensions. So I don't know if he's going to play or what's going on there, but I just think Indianapolis, outgained in every single game so far, yet they're 2-2. 68.3 yards per game they're being outgained by. And this Gus Bradley defense, Ryan Tannehill last year, 73% completion rate, 107 passer rating, 2 touchdowns, no picks. I just think Tennessee gets it done here on the road. take the money line if you don't want the -1. But I just think Tennessee has the better team. We saw, I mean, that Rams team, like that was another team that we had rated pretty bad coming into the year, and they go down 23-0 against the Rams, and then Rams let them hang around, miss a couple field goals. But I think this Indianapolis team's luck is going to run out sooner or later. I mean, that game against the Ravens where they shouldn't have really had any business hanging around, and then the game against the Rams, I think the bottom's going to come out. I think they're going to start turning it over more. They've been fairly lucky with the turnovers thus far, and I think Minshew is better than a slight upgrade on Richardson. I think you're going to start to see some more mistakes, and the accuracy is really going to be a killer. So this is the type of game where I think this veteran Tennessee squad, Derrick Henry, Hopkins, Vrabel gets it done against what I think is an inferior opponent, even though they're on the road.
Yeah, I would lean that way. I make Tennessee a slight favorite, but I have no strong thoughts on this game. To me, it feels like it's going to be a weird, close, typical AFC South game. So we will trust Vrabel to get it done in the end and get to the window. For my second pick and the fourth overall of the Week 5 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys plus 3.5 at the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday night. I took this bet last year, plus 4, plus 3.5. And I would bet it again. It was a low-scoring defensive battle. Dallas was done in by some picks, and then they dropped the pick themselves. And then also, I think, a lot of people forget is Pollard got hurt in that game, which was just huge. I think he can actually have a good game this season, assuming that he stays healthy the whole game, against the 49ers defense that there's been some cracks, even against the run this year. Now, you haven't really seen it because they've played, 4 clowns that aren't going to go to the playoffs. And I think this is probably the peak of the market for the 49ers after blowout wins over the Giants and Cardinals. And, the Cowboys could have close to a healthy one offensive line. There's still maybe a little bit uncertainty there, but I just think it's a better roster now. I'm catching the same number. These are the two elite teams along with the Eagles in the NFC. I would take over a field goal if you put any of those teams together, and no matter where you played the game. I'm taking over a field goal. The Dallas defense can exploit a questionable San Francisco offensive line. That's what they did last year. They got a ton of pressure on the right side. Those are the questions that we had coming into the season with San Francisco. There's no way we could have any of them answered yet because they haven't really played anybody with a good defense. But the Dallas defense is capable of bringing pressure from all over, exploiting some of the potential weaknesses on this San Francisco offensive line. And you have to blitz Purdy. He's not a Jimmy G where, if he's under pressure, he's done. Because he can move around a little bit. He's getting rid of the ball quicker this year and also increasing his average depth of target, which is a great sign for Purdy. But if you look at his EPA per play when he's not blitzed and not under pressure, it is so insane because he's making all the throws and the offense is so good. And there's guys you have to get pressure. You have to get to him. You have to hit him. And that's what Dallas did last year. And he had Purdy had his worst game as a pro, even though he still was pretty good overall. So I think Dak will be more aggressive here. And he's been really a little bit too conservative, I think, worried about the picks. But now, big game. I think Dallas is going to come out angry. This is a team that eliminated from the postseason each of the past 2 seasons. And I think the Dallas offense also has a bit of potential red zone regression coming their way. They've only scored touchdowns on 37% of their red zone trips. Last year, they led the NFL at over 70%. Now, that's a stat where there's a lot of variance year to year, so you could expect some regression, but they're not going to be cut in half and only scoring touchdowns on, Zach Wilson territory. So, but over a field goal, I have to take Dallas here. I think this should be a really good game. The Dallas defense, I think, is going to come out and make a couple plays. And I actually think the Cowboys are going to win this game. So give me Dallas plus 3.5.
Yeah, you and I both talked about how Dallas potentially could be the best team in the NFC. Now, they had that hiccup against Arizona, so nobody's really putting them there right now. But this could be a statement game, like you said, for them. And I do think they have the requisite defense. We saw that with Philly last year where they just created havoc and end up, you don't ever want to see a guy get hurt, but, something like that could happen in this game. Dallas could throw San Francisco off schedule, because San Francisco has just been so on schedule for the last, every other game but that NFC Championship game. I mean, they're putting up 30+. You think the streak ends? I think the streak may end.
Yes, I agree. The streak ends here.
Yeah, right. So don't hate that at all. Okay. For my third and final pick of the Week 5 6-pack, the 5th overall, I'm going with the Arizona Cardinals +3 at home against the Cincinnati Bengals. And I just got to fade the Bengals until they show me something here, because right now, again, we're 4 weeks into the season and Joe Burrow can't move around. And right now, the Cardinals are the better team on paper than the Cincinnati Bengals. Cardinals are 16th in DVOA, 6th on offense, 30th on defense, and 9th on special teams. But Cincinnati is 10 spots lower overall, 26. They're 23rd on offense, 25th on defense. And, it's just nothing has come easy to this team. And I think that the Cardinals can win this game. Their offense has been a lot better than expected thus far. Joshua Dobbs is hanging in there, and he can move around a little bit. He's not making he's not making the terrible negative plays or anything like that. And on the other hand, Joe Burrow, Cincinnati's dead last in total yards per game at 236. Arizona is averaging over 100 yards more per game than the Bengals, and they played Dallas and San Francisco already this year. On the road, Cincinnati has scored 6 points in 2 games. They've gained 353 yards total, 20 first downs total in 2 games. They scored on 2 of their 22 drives on the road, and both of those were field goals. Burrow is last in yards per attempt at 4.8. I gotta fade this Bengal team until they show me something, because right now Burrow just has to get rid of the ball really quickly. He's leading the league in throw percentage of throws in under 2.5 seconds, but he's 31st of 36 quarterbacks in yards per attempt when under 2.5 seconds, and he's 30th in passer rating. And that's, I talked about how Stroud is being very efficient when he does it. You can be, but Burrow is not, because you don't have to even spy him, and now you probably are going to be without T. Higgins. It's just, I don't think it's a great spot for the Bengals. And I think this Cardinal team is a little bit underrated, especially coming off the blowout of San Francisco. But Cardinals metrics are pretty much better than Cincinnati's across the board. So I'm just going to fade Burrow while I think he's still hampered by this injury.
Yeah, it's hard to price the Bengals just to knowing how much to downgrade Burrow with his injury. I think the Bengals are crazy for putting him out there. Their long-term franchise quarterback risking a major injury, and he's doing nothing. He's broken. He can't move. He can't plant. He has a negative 0.09 EPA plus completion percentage over expectation composite. That's dead last in the NFL. 34th out of 34 quarterbacks. The only other quarterbacks in the negative, Kenny Pickett and Desmond Ridder.
Yeah.
I mean, that's your Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, and Joe Burrow. That's bad company to be in. Cardinals, well-coached team. They're playing really hard. They're going to blitz a lot here, knowing that Burrow can't move around. I don't mind. It's tough for me to price this game, but I don't mind fading the Bengals until you see something competent from Burrow and this offense.
Yeah, all right. When you have, I was just gonna say, when you have, and this goes for Stroud, this goes for all these things. You're 4 weeks in now. Once you start getting to 150, 160 dropbacks, you can factor you're gonna use about 30 to 40% of the actual, and then the rest of it's gonna be regression. So that's why this week it's all right, Stroud for me, fade Burrow, fade Ridder. It's just now we're starting to get some real data, and it's I just think there's margin for error now with how bad these guys are playing. We have to start taking this data serious.
Yep. All right, for my third pick and the 6th overall, the Week 5 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going to go with the New England Patriots -1 against New Orleans Saints. And this is a simple fade of Derek Carr. He played last week, and I don't know why he played. I mean, what was the purpose? They have a capable backup, and he played. He was clearly hurt. I'm pulling up the numbers here because they're so funny. He just couldn't throw it. His shoulder. He has a shoulder injury. If you're not familiar, he couldn't throw it downfield.
Alvin Kamara just caught another check.
Yeah, Kamara had 13 catches for like 30 yards. 33 yards. How's that possible?
But 10 came on one play. 10 or 11 came on one play. So, like, it was like 12 for
Carr was
20.
23 of 37 for 127. He's clearly hurt. And there's an angle here. I think this might be the bottom of the market on the Patriots. Look, they got blown out. It's a good spot to buy if you look historically trend-wise for a team that gets blown out by that margin. But they've played – their losses have come against the Eagles, the Dolphins, and the Cowboys. And they played they had chances to beat the Eagles and the Dolphins. So they're sitting at 1-3. Look, they have a lot of injuries across the board. But, look, there's something I believe to be true in the market because their injuries are specifically at corner. But I don't really care about that this week. I know that Christian Gonzalez has looked great. But, number one, Derek Carr can't throw the ball downfield. So that's who cares if your corners are out? I know Judon's out too. But number two, how many times have we seen no matter what corner, doesn't matter. They have 17 guys named Jones. I don't even think they're real. They're just like AI. And no matter who you plug in at a corner in the Patriots defense under Bill Belichick, they just grade out great. And look, they found another corner. And then they leave, and then they're J.C. Jackson's just like a healthy
J.C. Jackson's back. He's back. He was the best corner in the league on the Patriots. The worst corner in the league on the Chargers.
Yeah, it's amazing. So like a lot of it is scheme driven, and I think like we have to like come up with some adjustment when we're like comparing how the corners are graded in the league, and be like, all right, we got to subtract this many points from the Patriots corner. So I don't think it's that as big of a deal here because it looks like Jack Jones also has hurt his hamstring while on IR. So I lose track of all the Joneses. Keeping up with the Joneses with the Patriots, and then Christian Gonzalez is going to be out. Judon is out, which isn't great, but this Patriots defense, against a quarterback that can't really throw the ball, and it's not really an explosive Saints offense. Carr just doesn't have a handle on this yet. I mean, this is a Saints team that their wins have come over a winless Panthers team with Bryce Young by 3. That looks worse by the day. And then the Titans by 1 in a game where Tennessee had a clear defensive touchdown wiped off the board.
Yeah, and Tannehill might have had his worst game ever, including the Dolphins.
Yeah, so I'm just going to trust the Patriots to bounce back here, and the fact that mainly this is just a fate of Carr in that offense right now, and I just don't think that the Patriots' defensive injuries are as big of a deal as the market might think, especially in this matchup, right? Like if you're going up against the Dolphins or something, it might be a different story, but I'm going to buy low here on the Patriots, who have been feisty at home. They easily, they could have gotten the Eagles, they could have gotten the Dolphins at home, so yeah, give me New England here. -1.
I was yelling at anybody who would listen in the offseason of Derek Carr not necessarily going to be the savior, especially right away for this Saints team. And he had decent week 1, although they should have scored more points than 16, but he threw for 305 yards. All right, fine. Week 2, 6.3 yards an attempt, 228 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick. Week 3, 107 yards before he goes down, 5.7 an attempt. And last week, 3.4 an attempt. He's got 2 touchdowns on the year with 2 picks, and he's averaging 6.2 yards per attempt. He has just not been good at all.
Yeah, now he's hurt, and now add an injury, and also
and a terrible scheme.
Yeah,
by the way, and coaching mismatch.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that and then at the end of the day, big coaching mismatch here.
Yeah, I mean, so my one concern in this game, is Mac Jones, honestly. Not even the Patriots defense. Like, Mac Jones is low-key been very bad as well. Now, He has faced some good defense, but, I mean, Mac Jones is he's, like, inching toward that, like, Pickett territory where it's like, can you trust this guy ever? I mean, in this game, it should be fine because at worst, it'd probably be a wash, and I think the Pats have a scheme advantage, but there is some kind of variance, I think, to this game just because Mac Jones is, I mean, he's just inexplicable. But you got your boy Zappy, to bail you out if if it comes to that. Okay. So to recap, Stuck has the Steelers +4 against the Ravens, the Cowboys +3.5 against the Niners, and the Pats -1 against the New Orleans Saints. I got the Texans +1.5 at Atlanta, the Titans -1 at Indy, and the Arizona Cardinals home dogs by 3 against the Bengals. That is going to wrap it for our Week 5 Sunday 6-pack.